ready to dive into happiness.
Yeah.
But not the way you might think. Today, we're going deep on Bertrand Russell's The Conquest of Happiness. Written way back in 1930, but...
still relevant.
You bet it is.
Yeah.
Still so much to teach us almost a century later. And you mentioned wanting, like, practical advice.
Right.
So today, we're all about uncovering those actionable tips from Russell for a happier life.
What I find fascinating about Russell is he comes at this with a philosopher's mind, you know? He's not afraid of those big questions about the meaning of life.
Right.
But then gets right down to the nitty-gritty of what we can actually do to, you know, cultivate more joy day to day.
It's not just like, oh, feel-good vibes, only it's really getting into, like, the roots of it all.
Exactly.
Both happiness and unhappiness.
Yeah.
And he starts by, like, busting this myth that our unhappiness is all because of these big cosmic issues.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got this great anecdote about an author who was just miserable because all the, like, old certainties were crumbling around him.
Yeah.
You know, felt lost in a world where, like, values were changing, beliefs were shifting.
I feel that.
And it's tempting, you know, to blame our unhappiness on these huge societal shifts.
Oh, yeah. Way easier to blame the universe than look in the mirror, right?
Or, like, the meaninglessness of the universe, right?
Yeah.
But Russell's arguing that so much of it comes from more personal, often fixable sources.
And like today, we are bombarded with anxieties, right? Technology, politics, climate change.
Right. Easy to get overwhelmed.
Easy.
But Russell would probably say, focus on what you can control, right?
Yeah.
Your reactions, your mindset, your relationships.
Okay.
That's where the power lies.
So step one, stop blaming the cosmos.
Yeah.
What's next on the roadmap?
Cultivating what he calls zest for life.
Okay.
And he's not talking about, you know, manic energy or forcing happiness 24/7. It's more about actively engaging with the world around you, finding joy in the simple things.
And he has this great example, right? A childhood memory.
Yeah.
You picture 2-year-old Bertrand Russell totally absorbed by muddy grass.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the wonder of it.
Yeah.
Such a pure image of finding joy in these basic sensory experiences.
And that's key, right? Like, how often are we letting our digital distractions disconnect us from that childlike wonder? Maybe true happiness isn't about chasing the next thrill, but rediscovering the beauty and fascination in the everyday.
So put down the phone and go play in the mud. I'm getting it.
Maybe.
But life's not all sunshine and muddy grass, right? What about the unavoidable stuff, like envy?
Envy. Russell tackles this one head on, and with a memorable analogy, peacocks.
Okay.
He says, imagine if each peacock believed its tail was the most magnificent, there'd be no envy at all.
I love that image. Everybody's strutting around confident in their own fabulousness.
Exactly.
But how does that help us deal with envy in real life?
He's getting at the core of it, you know. Envy's more than just wanting what someone else has.
Oh, yeah.
It's also wanting them to lose it.
Ooh.
It's about feeling diminished by someone else's success, and that mindset is a happiness killer.
Yeah, I felt that sting in comparison.
Oh, for sure.
So how do we escape that trap? Do we all need to, like, become peacocks?
Not quite. Russell's advice is to cultivate admiration instead of envy.
Okay.
Focus on your strengths, your unique talents. Celebrate what makes you, you. When you appreciate what you bring to the table, you're less likely to get caught up comparing.
So shifting the focus from what we lack
Yes.
to what we have.
Yeah.
From external validation to that internal satisfaction.
Absolutely.
I like that. But let's face it, not everything's about self-affirmation and strengths, right? What about the stuff that's just kind of boring? Work, for example.
Great point. And you might be surprised by Russell's take on this.
Oh.
He acknowledges work can be tedious, especially if you're not in a job you love.
Yeah.
But here's the twist. He actually argues that even dull work is often preferable to complete idleness.
Really? That seems counterintuitive.
He observed that many wealthy people with tons of leisure time were actually quite bored and unhappy. They lacked purpose, structure, work, even the mundane kind, provides that framework, keeps our minds engaged, sense of accomplishment.
So it's not just the work itself, it's how it structures our time.
Yeah.
Gives us purpose.
Makes you think, right? Are we so obsessed with busyness today because we're trying to avoid those deeper questions about what truly gives our lives meaning? Russell would say the most fulfilling work contributes to something beyond just ourselves.
Okay.
Whether that's family, our community, a cause we care about.
So work is a potential source of meaning, not just a means to an end.
Exactly.
But what about our closest relationships? Surely family is a guaranteed happiness booster, Ray.
Family. Russell gets a bit mischievous here.
Okay.
He says family should be a source of happiness, but often isn't.
Oh, boy.
And he wrote this in the 1930s. Imagine how much more complicated family dynamics are now.
I'm already feeling the complexity.
Right. He hilariously captures the anxieties of modern parenthood, that fear of messing up, the constant pressure from experts, the struggle to raise perfect kids.
It is?
It is.
Yeah.
Every parent can relate. But then he also talks about the importance of respecting children's autonomy.
Oh, interesting.
Which feels incredibly modern.
Yeah.
He seemed to understand that kids thrive when they have space to develop their own personalities, make their own choices.
He was writing at a time when, like, traditional family structures were being challenged, right?
Yeah.
And he seemed to recognize that these changes, while positive, also created new anxieties for parents.
Exactly.
It's like we're always trying to balance that idealized image of family with the messy, unpredictable reality
for sure.
of actually living it.
Absolutely.
So how do we navigate that paradox? Find those pockets of happiness within the chaos?
Well, for Russell, it starts with honesty and respect and a good dose of humor.
Okay.
You know? Approach family relationships with open communication, willing to embrace the imperfections.
Accept them as, find the humor, and remember to actually connect, right? That's good advice for any dang relationship.
Absolutely.
So we've done unhappiness, zest, envy, work, family. Where does this happiness journey take us next?
This is where it gets interesting. Russell delves into something we often try to avoid. Boredom.
Boredom. Okay, that's not usually top of mind when I think about being happier.
Yeah.
But I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
He argues that boredom is actually a uniquely human experience.
Oh.
Animals, they're too busy surviving to get bored.
Right.
But us humans, with our thinking, imagining, we're prone to this restlessness, this wanting something more than what's right in front of us.
So it's like a side effect of our big brains.
Exactly. And he connects boredom to this gap between our current reality and some imagined, more desirable state.
Okay.
That feeling of being stuck, wanting something to happen, anything.
Explains our obsession with travel, entertainment, constantly seeking out new experiences.
Right. They're trying to outrun boredom.
Totally.
But is that the answer?
Good question.
Russell believes we have this natural need for stimulation, novelty.
Sure.
But he cautions against chasing excitement just for the sake of it.
Okay.
He encourages us to find activities that genuinely engage our minds, our hearts, activities that connect us to something larger.
Okay.
How about you? How do you deal with boredom?
Honestly, I'm probably guilty of reaching for my phone whenever there's a lull in the day.
Yeah.
But I think Russell would suggest something a bit more mindful. No.
I think so. Instead of scrolling, maybe pick up a book, a hobby, have a deep conversation with someone you care about.
Right.
Choose activities that nourish you, not just distract you from the present moment.
So it's not about eliminating boredom altogether.
Right.
But about choosing how we respond.
Yes.
Finding activities that bring joy and purpose even when life feels a bit mundane.
Exactly. We have that power to choose how we spend our time, what we engage with, and that choice, it has a huge impact on our well-being.
Huge.
But it's not just about finding the right activities, it's also about managing our energy.
Okay.
Russell had a lot to say about fatigue, something we often overlook in our go-go-go culture.
I know, I'm always pushing myself to do more, be more, achieve more.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing rest and recovery are just as important.
Absolutely. Russell believed that much of our fatigue comes from worry, anxiety, those mental loops that keep us up at night.
Oh, the mental loops. I know them well.
Right. He talks about mental discipline,
Yes.
training our minds to focus on the task at hand, let go of worries we can't control.
So like creating boundaries for our minds. Work worries, stay work. Home worries, stay at home.
Exactly. He also suggests finding healthy distractions to shift our focus away from persistent worries.
Okay.
Reading, time in nature, connecting with loved ones, these can help us detach and recharge.
Giving our minds a break from all that overthinking.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? When we're constantly bombarded with stress, we need those moments of respite to restore ourselves.
You do.
He was also a big believer in the power of sleep.
Oh, sleep the best.
He understood that chronic sleep deprivation, it makes us more irritable, less productive, less able to cope.
It's true, we definitely underestimate a good night's sleep.
It's not just about feeling rested, it's about giving our minds and bodies time to repair, rejuvenate. So it's finding that balance between effort and rest, engaging with the world, and taking time for ourselves.
Right.
Understanding that taking breaks, it's not selfish, it's essential for our well-being.
And for our ability to show up fully in our lives.
Right?
I love that framing. It's not about burning out. It's about Finding a sustainable pace.
Exactly.
So boredom, excitement, fatigue.
Yeah.
Where does Russell take us from here?
Now we're getting into the deeper philosophical waters.
Oh, I'm ready.
Russell believed that true happiness stems from what he called an outward-focused orientation.
Okay.
It's a way of relating to the world that goes beyond our own self-interests, our own desires.
Outward focus. Can you unpack that a bit?
He argued that many people are trapped in what he called self-absorption,
Okay.
constantly fixated on their own thoughts, feelings, desires.
Right.
And this, he believed, leads to isolation, unhappiness.
Like we're stuck in our own little bubbles cut off from the world.
Exactly. He contrasted this with an outward-focused way of being, where our attention, our energy is directed towards something larger than ourselves.
Okay.
This could mean connecting with people, engaging with ideas, appreciating nature, immersing ourselves in art, anything that pulls us out of our own heads into a greater sense of wonder and connection.
So shifting the focus from me to
Yeah.
we.
Yes. And Russell believed this shift is key to finding lasting happiness.
Okay.
When we connect with something meaningful beyond our individual selves, whether it's our community, a cause we believe in, a creative pursuit, we tap into a deeper sense of purpose, belonging.
So our happiness is intertwined with the well-being of others, with the state of the world around us.
It's a much bigger picture.
It is.
And this raises a question for you.
Okay.
What does it mean to be outward focused in your life? What draws your attention, your energy beyond your own personal concerns?
Wow, that's a big question. I'm already thinking about my own priorities, how I can shift my focus outward a bit more.
It's a journey, not a destination. And Russell offers us some wonderful guideposts along the way. One of my favorites is his concept of cultivating a friendly interest in the world.
Friendly interest, that sounds oddly specific.
I know, right? But it's so simple, yet powerful.
Okay.
It's about approaching the world with curiosity, openness, genuine interest, rather than judgment or cynicism.
So replacing fear with fascination.
Yeah.
Seeing the world through the eyes of a child.
He uses the example of a geologist looking at rocks.
Okay.
The geologist isn't just seeing stones, they're seeing a story, a history, a fascinating puzzle to unravel.
Right.
And Russell believed this kind of friendly interest could be applied to everything.
Okay.
Our interactions with people, our exploration of ideas, even our relationship with ourselves.
That's a great challenge. How often do I approach things with curiosity versus judgment? I think there's definitely room for more friendly interest in my life. What else did Russell have to say about this outward-focused, joyful way of being?
Well, he believed that finding joy in simple things was essential for a happy life. And I know that might sound cliche, but I think he was onto something really profound.
I'm all for simple joys. Tell me more.
Russell argued that a lot of people chase after big goals and external achievements, thinking that's where happiness lies.
Right.
But they miss out on the joy that's available in everyday moments. A beautiful sunset, a good conversation, a delicious meal.
It's like we're always striving for the next big thing and forgetting to appreciate what's already around us.
Exactly. He believed that if we cultivated a deeper appreciation for those simple joys, we'd build a more sustainable foundation for happiness. Those little moments of delight can brighten even the most ordinary day, no matter what's going on in the bigger picture of our lives.
So it's about training ourselves to notice and savor those moments of beauty and connection. I love that. It's like a mindfulness practice for everyday life.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of mindfulness, Russell also explored some really mind-bending concepts about the nature of self and how our perception of ourselves impacts our happiness.
Ooh, this is where we get into the deep end of the philosophical pool, right? I'm ready to dive in.
He believed that our sense of ourselves as separate independent beings is actually an illusion.
Okay.
He argued that we are all fundamentally interconnected, woven together into the fabric of the universe.
Okay, that's a big idea. But how does this illusion of self relate to happiness?
Well, he believed that when we cling to this idea of separateness, we create a barrier between ourselves and the world, We experience fear, anxiety, loneliness because we feel isolated and alone.
It's like we're building walls instead of bridges, cutting ourselves off from the very source of connection that could bring us joy.
Exactly. And he believed that overcoming this illusion, recognizing our fundamental interconnectedness, was the key to unlocking a deeper, more enduring kind of happiness.
So it's about dissolving those boundaries.
Yeah.
Realizing that we are all part of something much larger than ourselves. That's a beautiful, if challenging, idea.
He believed this realization could lead to a profound sense of peace, acceptance, and joy that transcended the ups and downs of daily life. It's like tapping into a wellspring of happiness that's always available to us once we let go of those limiting beliefs about who we are.
Wow, that's powerful stuff.
Ah.
I'm definitely going to be pondering that one for a while. I can already feel a shift in perspective, a sense of expansiveness, just from considering that idea.
That's the magic of Russell's work. He challenges us to think deeply, to question our assumptions, to explore new ways of being in the world. And in that exploration, we just might stumble upon a more authentic, enduring kind of happiness.
It's been an amazing journey exploring the conquest of happiness with you today. We've covered so much ground, from overcoming unhappiness and cultivating zest to finding meaning in work and relationships, managing boredom and fatigue, embracing an outward focus, and even contemplating the illusion of self.
It's a rich tapestry of ideas, isn't it? And ultimately, it's about weaving those ideas into the fabric of our own lives.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final question to reflect on Russell. Russell believed true happiness stems from connecting to something larger than ourselves. What does that something larger look like for you?
What a beautiful question to ponder. Is it about family, community, creativity, nature, spirituality? What are those things that ignite your soul and connect you to a sense of purpose and belonging beyond your individual self?
That's the invitation, dear listener. Go explore, find your something larger, and let it guide you on your unique journey to a happier, more meaningful life.
And remember, the pursuit of happiness is an ongoing adventure. It's about embracing the journey with all its twists and turns and finding joy in the process of becoming the best version of ourselves.
Beautifully said. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into Bertrand Russell's The Conquest of Happiness, and we wish you all the best on your own quest for a fulfilling life. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay happy.